Right, let's get the Northern Ireland perspective now, where they do things differently. Interestingly, with Cornby, the report coming out, and trunk roads linking up with council roads, that's what they do in Northern Ireland. So please welcome Dr. Andrew Murray, who's Deputy Secretary from Transport Northern Ireland.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I'll try and pick up some of those themes, Roy, that you've introduced us to, and I will try and point out some of the differences in the way we do things in Northern Ireland. My first slide I have put up for a couple of reasons. One, familiarise you with the geography of Northern Ireland. The second one is just to highlight that around 15 years ago, we created an integrated transport strategy for Northern Ireland. And that strategy was delivered through 3 separate transport plans. One of those transport plans is illustrated in this slide. And it was a transport plan that dealt with our strategic network. And one of the things I just want to highlight is that when it came to selecting our strategic network, we had the complete freedom to decide what was going to be in it, because there's only a single highway authority in Northern Ireland. I'm responsible for all of the roads, so motorways, trunk roads, and everything down to an unsurfaced public lane. So that's what we chose as our strategic road network. And as you can see, it's a strategic transport network. It includes road and rail. The dotted lines is the rail network. It includes motorways, trunk roads, and other important link corridors that we identified. So that's something that might generate some discussion later on. Also, we have a number of land boundaries, boundaries with the Republic of Ireland, marked by the thick sort of purple or red arrows, or purple on the screen. And those are important to us. We have to make sure we connect with the south of Ireland, naturally, but they could be more important when Brexit takes place. And that's something we're keeping an eye on, what sort of border we're going to have. Looking at the current Roads Authority in Northern Ireland, as I've mentioned, it's a big organisation. We look after a network of 25,000 kilometres. We have 5,800 bridges, 280,000 street lighting columns, lots and lots of impressive statistics, and it's because we look after the entire road network. 1,550 staff, including an industrial workforce of 400. We have a headquarters in Belfast. We have 4 client divisions around the province, and they're marked on the map. They're actually they've been designed to be of equal workload. So the very small geographic Eastern Division looks after the Belfast area, where there's a lot of highways, a lot of population, a lot of work there. The much bigger geographically Western Division, similar workload for the divisional manager, but a vast area to cover, but a much smaller population. Our budgets are around £350 million a year in total between capital and resource. That's the sort of size of expenditure that we have. We have an internal consultant organisation who works with a partner consultant in the private sector to deliver all our consultancy work. And we have an internal contractor who basically does the routine maintenance operation. Other things like resurfacing are contracted out. As far as governance is concerned, in Northern Ireland, we now are devolved in the same way as Scotland and Wales is devolved, slightly different powers. We have an executive which sits at Parliament Buildings up in Stormont, an impressive building, and we now have 9 government departments. There's the Office of the First Minister and Deputy First Minister, and then 8 other departments. And over on the right-hand side there is the Department for Infrastructure. I look after the roads and rivers part of the Department for Infrastructure. The same department also deals with all aspects of road safety. It deals with strategic planning, it deals with public transport, and it deals with water as well. As far as major projects are concerned, these have come from our transport plan, which was illustrated in the second slide. We have delivered a lot of that transport plan, so a lot of work has been done over the last 10 years on the motorway network, on the route out to the west, on the A4, and on the main route connecting Belfast and Dublin, and some other important bypasses as well. The work which is currently being planned is our biggest project, the A5, which is a road that would connect Londonderry on the northwest of the province with Dublin, sort of a diagonal road, part of which is in Northern Ireland, part of which is in the south of Ireland. That's our biggest project at the minute. We were about to deliver it about 2 years ago when it was stopped for legal reasons. We're now back at the public inquiry stage and hoping that we'll be successful this time. The A6, another large scheme being delivered in stages, it's going to basically, it's a road that runs from Belfast effectively, also up to Londonderry, but it takes a different route. It goes up along the eastern coast and then along the north of the province. York Street Interchange, big project close to the centre of Belfast, somewhere in the 130 to 165 million pound project. It's effectively a very large junction combining our 3 busiest routes and taking about 100,000 vehicles per day. At the minute, it's going through statutory procedures. We are ready to award a 2-stage contract for that. The first stage would be to complete the development and come up with a target price, and the second stage would be delivery. We're hoping we have enough money to at least start that process and get the first stage of that contract awarded. And finally, on this particular list, we have a Belfast Rapid Transit scheme, which I'm also responsible for. That scheme, £90 million scheme, it's going to be a bus-based rapid transit connecting 2 of the main arterial routes into Belfast from the west of the city and the east of the city, and going around the centre of the city and out to the Titanic Quarter. So that's quite an innovative project, which we hope will see a considerable modal shift onto public transport. It's going to be a rapid service and a frequent service, which should be quite a transformational offering for public transport. As far as innovation is concerned, we've been through a lot of change over the past few years, and there are lots of people, including me and my organisation, who think we should be innovating a lot more, but we haven't had time to innovate, basically. We have had a 25% staff reduction in the last 3 years, the last 5 years, which isn't too bad. Problem was 15% of that was in the last, well, a 6 or 7 month period, just quite recently there. That was a government-introduced scheme to reduce the size of the civil service to make money available for other things. It did hit the organisation quite hard. We are still adjusting to that. However, that scale of staff lost has required us to be innovative, and I have referred to us becoming a bit more EasyJet as an organisation. We were always, in the roads area, a very accessible information. The public were able to phone us, chat to an engineer would have come out to site. That was a very much appreciated model. The public liked that a great deal, but unfortunately we're being forced to change from it. And we're now becoming an organisation where we're much more likely to be contacted through a call centre or online directly, which is our preferred method now. So we have done a lot of work on making online reporting of defects easier. Online, perhaps applying for blue badges. We've tried to combine a lot of our systems together so that the section office systems where we look at road maintenance are combined with the system for dealing with public liability claims. So a lot of work on into enhanced IT systems. We're also starting to use drones on our capital works projects. We use drones for our record photographs. They have proved to be very effective. We're hoping that we'll use them for flooding as well. And I know, Roy, in Scotland, you're using them for landslips, so we're probably going to gain a bit, transfer some of that knowledge to ourselves. We also just have got a photograph there of a motorway bus lane. We're very keen on our motorway bus lanes in Northern Ireland. The M1, which is the main motorway, one of the 2 main motorways coming into Belfast, is heavily congested every single morning. And I was on it at 6:45 this morning, and it was congested then, which was a bit of a surprise to me. I'm not normally on it at that stage. But bus lane was free. Buses move up and down that lane freely, and we're going to extend that bus lane. Just quickly, a couple of the major issues facing me at present. First of all, our capital budgets are very variable. Now, capital budgets are always variable because they depend on what major project you're delivering at a certain time. That's fine. Problem for me is that resurfacing is taken from my capital budget as well, and that has been fluctuating quite wildly. And that's bad for me and my staff. it's even worse for the industry, because in 1-2 year period there, we actually went from the best year we'd ever had for structural maintenance. We got just about as much as we needed to keep the road network in good condition. And the following year, we had the worst year we'd ever had. Now, that's really difficult for the industry to manage, and I understand that, but it's all that we could do. Problem is congestion and slow, unreliable journey times. We still have quite a bit of our major road network as single carriageway, mixed use, agricultural use, commercial use, and private car use. And because it's quite a busy network, the speed tends to be dictated by the slowest vehicles. So that can be a problem. In Belfast, we're suffering from the same problem as other cities are suffering from. To try and encourage modal shift and more active travel, we have created bus lanes and we have created cycle lanes. They have taken away road space, and at the moment, there hasn't been a sufficient modal shift to justify that. Now, it will come, I'm quite sure. I'm not arguing against that policy. But until it comes, the resilience of the road network is greatly reduced. So what I'm finding now, coming into the winter months, it just takes a few accidents or a lorry to shed its load or something else, and the whole network can become very congested. That's a problem I'm facing this winter. A problem which will probably be worse because of the weakness of the pound against the euro, because in Northern Ireland, we would attract a lot of cross-border trade, and when the euro's strong and the pound's weak, we get a lot more of that. So I'm expecting a pretty difficult winter as far as congestion is concerned. Good for the shops, of course. The executive in Northern Ireland has created some flagship projects. Interestingly, for this audience, there are 7 of them, and 4 of them are on the transport side. And of those on the transport side, I'm looking after 3 of them. The A5 and A6, the 2 major road schemes I mentioned earlier. The Belfast Rapid Transit, that's a flagship project. And there's also a transport hub in Belfast, which is a transport project. Outside of that, there's a health and emergency services one, and one related to sport. But interesting that the executive has committed to those 7 projects, of which 4 are in the transport area. And the benefit of being a flagship project is that you're guaranteed funding for the duration of the project. Apart from flagship projects, funding is very difficult in Northern Ireland on the capital side, and it's difficult to get anything capital delivered outside of those flagship projects. Brexit is going to be a theme for all of us in the transport industry. Probably don't know enough about it yet to make comments. The unique features of Northern Ireland are the land, border, and the currency, that we're so affected by the currency issue. Final point I've noted there is the age profile in the organisation, and that's related to the skills shortage. Now, within Northern Ireland, we don't have a particular problem recruiting people. The issues in Northern Ireland are that a lot of our resource is actually working in Great Britain and beyond. I've heard different estimates, but somewhere between 50% and 70% of the Northern Ireland construction industry is actually delivering projects in Great Britain. Age profile in my organisation is a big problem. Like many organisations in the transport sector, there's a lot of people in the 50-plus category, and in fact, in my organisation, there's a lot of people in the 60-plus category, even after the voluntary exit scheme. So, a few things there which might be picked up on in Sheena's presentation and in the discussion later, so thank you all very much.